Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm going to talk about, is the insurance industry getting better going into 2026? Right now, this is October of 2025, entering this new year 2026. I really want to talk about where things are going, how things are right now, the things that have happened, how they're impacting this next year. I'll talk in some terms of it being in California because that's our home state for my agency, Adelphia Insurance. But I'll also talk about how these carriers get affected nationwide and how this is most likely going to play out across the country in 2026 for the insurance industry. So let's dive into it. So as you know, guys, there's a personal lines marketplace and then the commercial lines marketplace. These are two they go hand in hand with carriers' profitability, but they are segmented usually in two departments within insurance carriers if they do sell personal and commercial admitted companies. And so I'll talk a little bit about each individual product: auto insurance, home insurance, workers' comp, commercial auto, commercial property, general liability. And I'll stick with those because those are the main policies that most agents will sell, P&C agents will sell. So I'll dive into each one real quick, as quickly as I can, so this video isn't a super long. I'll jam pack as much value as I can into this video and tell you how those are performing now and how I see them performing into this next year of 2026. And yes, that should give you a good idea of what's going to happen in the near future. Okay, so I'm going to talk first about auto insurance. Auto insurance, and I'll talk in terms of California and how this affects the rest of the country. Auto insurance in California is still very messed up, to put it bluntly. That's the best way to put it. It is getting better. It's healing. The insurance companies are starting to get the profitability under 100%. Of claims ratio. To give you an example, a lot of the carriers' claims ratios for auto insurance were like 110%. That means for every dollar that they were collecting, they were paying out in claims $1.10. That's a terrible business strategy. You do not want to be paying out more than what you're bringing in. It's very, in business 101. So that is starting to heal. It's going under 100% now that they are getting the right rates in place. State Farm is still not really doing super well with auto insurance as the primary insurer of the United States. They're still struggling in California, and it's forcing a lot of other agents to find solutions, which I'll talk about in just a second. But overall, auto insurance is starting to heal. Carriers are getting the rate because they've gotten approvals of rate increases and getting the money that they need. Across the country, it seems to be okay. Some of the carriers are probably tightening up with underwriting and restrictions, but in general, because auto insurance is getting better, it's going to get better across the country as well. Next one I'll talk about is homeowners. So homeowners in California is probably one of the worst lines of business right now because of losses. Same thing, they're losing so much money on loss ratios. And it's also starting to heal. I would say auto insurance is in a better position than home insurance. It is starting to get better with the home insurance. A lot of new insurance companies are starting to pop up. For example, in California, Lightspeed Insurance, which is backed by Lloyd's of London, and then Bamboo Insurance. They're trying to fill in the gap because these carriers will still take the very preferred good areas, like most of our top admitted carriers will take the good preferred business. And there's this gap, this middle market, which they used to insure everything that wasn't a fit and would go to Fair Plan. But they're trying to fill in these gaps. These insurance companies are starting to pop up and they're filling in that middle gap, which is like the below average, but not terrible business. They're starting to fill in those gaps. So Bamboo, Lightspeed are an example of some of those carriers that are starting to pop up and actually getting to write some business. So that's good. State Farm, I'll always talk about State Farm in terms of property insurance because they were the #1 property insurer in California. They're not writing at all homeowners in California, which is not good. But I do foresee in 2026, State Farm will most likely start to heal and come back into the market and play in California to start writing some business for homeowners. Next one I'll talk about is general liability, commercial general liability. A lot of these, this is a wide range of business. It can be restaurants, it could be contractors, and it can go as wide as you can imagine for different different industries that we're insuring. But overall, as a whole, general liability is doing pretty well. It's been consistently doing well. So that was a big shift for a lot of personal lines agents, like focus more on commercial because that's where the money is and that's where the opportunity is. You can actually write, carriers actually want it. It's tightened up in some areas, but overall still smooth. I think into 2026, we're gonna look really, really good. It's gonna look great. The next one I'll talk about is workers' comp. Workers' comp is also doing really, really well. That's the one that carriers want. They're fighting for business. They're trying to get the best rate. They're willing to lower their rates. They're willing to cut, premium to win the business. They want that business. The workers' comp is a slam dunk. It's a kind of a race to the bottom right now. Eventually, this is what they call a soft market in workers' comp. Eventually, there's cyclical, ups and downs of insurance. Like there's going to be a day where workers' comp maybe hardens because there's a lot of claims. So we'll pray that doesn't happen, but it's possible and more than likely because insurance is cyclical, soft and hard markets. The next one I'll talk about is commercial auto. Commercial auto, very similar to personal auto, is also pretty restricted because it's still the same kind of exposure out on the roads, claims and losses, and the carriers were not making so much money, but they are opening up because it is better than personal auto. The commercial auto is more, they're able to factor in rate better and see better overall trends for different classes of business, etc. So they're able to calculate what the premium should be and is adequate and make that profitable. One thing that I've also noticed is that some carriers are even only accepting commercial auto business if you're willing to bundle with the workers' comp. Because the commercial auto is still not profitable, they still want the whole account because they're able to average out the premium if they can get both lines of business. So if they're profitable with the workers' comp but not profitable with the commercial auto, they'll write it if they can take both pieces of business, if that makes sense. Last but not least, commercial property. We're talking lesser's risk, we're talking apartment buildings, we're talking all different commercial buildings. This in California is probably the most, I said it with homeowners, but this is kind of hand in hand. Property insurance in California has been the most challenging because it's just so hard to write because of the fires and all the losses. If these properties in California are not in a good area and they're not fully updated in the last 10 to 20 years, I would say 20 years, it's just no carriers want them because most of these buildings are old. So if it's not a new building and it's not in a good area and it's not updated in the last 20 years, like fully updated, electrical, plumbing, roof, heater, HVAC, this is just an absolute no-go. The carriers don't want them at all. So it's just terrible because there's so many of them and we're trying to write them as many as we can, but they're all going to non-standard carriers. We're seeing some of the carriers starting to find solutions and they're getting creative and they're trying to earn this business by just basically removing the areas or excluding coverages that were the areas that were causing these massive claims. So it's really important for people to see, like, carriers are trying to be profitable. They're trying to find ways to make it work, and they will find ways to make it work. And they're doing it in California. So across the board, like I said, this affects everybody. Like, for example, State Farm, if they can't write in California, they can write in adjacent states. A lot of State Farm agents are flooding to Arizona, flooding to Nevada. So the competition is going to rise in other states. People are just starting to pivot because big, lots of business here in California, it's pivoting to other places. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you guys a kind of update on what's going on in 2025, going into 2026, and I think we're gonna see some improvement now that the insurance world is healing. So that's all I got. Hopefully you got some value from this. If you did, give us a like, ring the bell, subscribe, share this with another agent if you can, that you think would get value from this, and really appreciate you guys. We'll see you at the top. See you soon. Peace.